Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next episode review of the series. The Great Jahy Will Not Be Defeated, Episode 2. Druj Does Not Ask Questions. So yeah, Episode 2, first of all, the first episode, which like I said, I did not heard of this series until I was watching Brendan's reviews and saying how it's similar to Devil's a Part-Timer, and fans of that show will like this show. And it was right. I enjoyed this. I found, despite being a little bit similar to Devil's a Part-Timer, I'm thoroughly enjoying this series so far. The first episode I watched from last week was great. The first episode was great, and now getting into the second episode, I thought I thought that episode 2 was even better because I'm really looking forward to see more that's going to go on with the show, how it's going to go forward with more of this stuff, It's still having more of that fun humor, charm, and some more development on Jahy's character, which I'll get into. But this episode, okay, how it starts, okay, first we show like back when she was in the demon in the dark realm, right, when she's ruling, right, and we introduced this new character, which is basically was in the dark realm, her servant called Druj, and how Jahy always, basically Druj is the one who just worships of her, basically kissing the ground she stands on, and even though when she's totally wrong, she still worships of her, and even she still worships her when Jahy talks down to her, and like how, oh, can I use this weapon on you? He's like, oh, please, yes, do. Or, I'm tired, be a chair. Oh, yes, I will, master, whatever. So she will take whatever humiliation or whatever she takes from her master Jahy. So, and we cut back into the present in the back on Earth, that Jahy, she still wants to pursue to gain more of the crystals, and in the meantime, she looks at this jewelry shop and sees this diamond is worth about 2 million yen. It's like, how could somebody be able to afford that? And someone just bought it. She's like, what? That's more than I'll never make an ever. And it turns out that her former servant, Druj, is amazed to see her. And throughout this whole series, I loved the banter between Jahy and Druj. Because even though some Druj asked questions, oh, why you look at that form, right? And throughout this whole episode, like, Jahy has to put up this charade, you can say, this charade that, oh, like how this charade to say how she's lying. It's like, oh, I'm in this form because I wanted to maintain for everybody to see my basically pretend to be in this form so that no one can see who I really am, basically. I disguise, basically. And even with that, though, the Druj still, like, works, oh, you're so amazing, and all that. And the funny thing is, well, for Jahy, she's, basically living a shitty life right now. She's living in a shitty apartment, trying to barely make minimum wage on her job, right? Trying to put food on the table for herself. And while at the same time trying to find the crystals to regain her powers back. At the same time, Druj, because it's been like several months though since they've been on Earth. Druj has now become a very successful person who has basically made herself rich. Basically, like she just basically afford to buy this 2 million yen diamond ring, and she has a limousine of her own. She lives in this high-rise apartment with this great big apartment. Even though in the previous episode, it was like a blink and you miss the character Druj, like, cause when Jahy was being chased by the landlady and she was running down the street, there was this big limo pass, and if you freeze frame it, you saw her inside the limo. So it was a blink and you miss it cameo. So, but yeah, so and even Druj, even though she's basically living the rich life for herself, though. She's still praising. Oh, you're still praising, even though she can't basically see the obvious how low that her master has been. even when she's lying, she still praised her for what she is. So it was still fun between the two of them. To the point where they're going to get something to eat, right? And like when Jahy doesn't want to order anything, and she remembers Druj remembers the little thing that she said back in the Dark Realm. You know, like, oh, I can't. I'm not. Well, first of all, Druj said, I'm not gonna eat anything that's been littered with poison, right? So Druj goes to taste it for herself, see if it is. It's like, oh, okay, it's fine though. Even the point where she was gonna give Jahy a little bite, but she takes it back and eats it, right? Oh, it's fine though. But that's the whole thing is though, back in the Dark Realm, Jahy do the same thing to her. Here, have some. Take it for herself, right? So all that stuff that she did, that stuff that Jahy did to her, is kind of like a bit of karma. It basically came up and bite her in the ass, basically, because it makes me feel so sorry for her. But hey, that's a little bit of karma, though. Or to the point where when they're driving back and Druj wants to find out where she lives, but she doesn't want her to see it because she doesn't want to see how low her master is living, right? Basically in a rundown teensy apartment. And while struggling to pay rent as well. So she said she's gonna walk, and he's like, I can't anybody reveal my secret headquarters. He's like, oh, you're so brilliant, master. Like this is the point where she doesn't see the obvious though, but yet still praising her at the same time. But then after that, then Jahy's going to find more of the crystals. Like she finds some like in this tall high-rise building, and she starts climbing up the walls, right, like she's Spider-Man. But then Druj comes in, is like, oh, this is my apartment. I live in this building. Shows her apartment is so much bigger and much more luxurious than hers, obviously. And then she sees that Druj has gathered more of those crystals. Like, she attempts to steal them, but then the alarm goes off and she gets put in a cage. And you think that she's going to get busted for that, but no, Druj being kind of like, oh, you know, like that. It's like, oh, you're so great, master. Like, you tested the alarm system out. You sacrificed it for yourself for this to show how brilliant this security system is, right? And it's like, oh, I'm so proud of you, master. And she's like, and Jahy's like, and she doesn't know that she wanted to take those crystals though, but like I said, she's just like, boop, 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 boop. So even despite being she's living a much more better life than she does, she's still willing to, highly praise her master, even despite how low she's fallen. Even all the abuse she's given her, she's still willing to praise her, even despite all of that stuff that's happening. And then when she goes back home, what she gives her, not food though, but she gives Jahy this nice expensive like little tea set, little cup and saucers. So then after that, she goes to search out for more of the crystals, looking for more out in the woods. Like even to the point where there's a bird takes the only crystal that she has, and then she ends up getting herself lost, and she loses her pouch that contains all of her food and stuff, right? Everything she spent. And this is where you get a little bit of this more. She learns a little bit of humility about herself. She learns a little bit how, despite how once she was this great ruler, and now how far she's gone, and now like she's lost everything, and she says, I feel like I should just die at this point. And she's become more humble about herself, and then find a little bit of humility, even to the point where she finds this little baby chick, a bird that's fallen out of the nest. So with a little bit of humanity in her, she managed to climb to the tree and put the chick back in the nest. So it shows how, despite what she's been through, though, she's since I'm about to die, I might as well just do this little favor. So and how far has she's fallen as a ruler, she's found a bit of humbleness and humility for herself, which I thought was pretty good as well. I thought that was pretty good. And then, but when she puts the chick back in the nest, there's her crystal necklace, along with this big chunk of crystal that's already sitting in the nest right there, like this big here, just sitting in the nest. Like, oh, she's found it. And then you think she's gotten herself lost in these woods, but really not that nest where she retrieved the crystal from. that tree, that nest, the whole time it was right in her backyard the whole time, right next to the building. Oh, and speaking of the building, speaking of her building that she lives in, I forgot to mention the point where Druj was showing off the view from high up in her apartment, showing the viewpoint, and she even points out the house where she's living in, that little kennel apartment, and she's like, and Jahy's like, oh, that's where I live. Yeah, Druj even points out how that is a place for like a kennel for dogs, but that's where, not knowing that that's where she lives. I forgot to mention that. So yeah. But here's a point. Hopefully there's a point. I hope there's a point later on, not now, but later on, further down the road. Maybe she'll only admit that I've been lying to Druj, that she's been lying to Druj the whole time, saying this is the life I live in. I'm a low life now. I'm a fallen ruler. You're living a better life than I am. I think that maybe they'll be brought up at some point though, but not right now though. But maybe later down the road. But we'll have to see on that though. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong on that part. We'll have to see on that. But yeah, but the whole time the nest where that crystal was right beside the house the whole entire time. So I mean, she made this whole big adventure for nothing, which she could just go. Although she may not have found it. She may not have found it if that bird didn't drop that thing. If that chick didn't fall off the nest in the first place. But yeah, the whole time it was behind her home the whole time. And where she's running on the tree, and the landlady is just standing there looking at her, hanging at a tree. So it's like I'm not paying you rent. I'm not crying either. So even though the landlady offered her to give her a piggyback ride back to the house, so. But yeah. Now that she has now found a good chunk of the crystal now, which I thought she was gonna find more like easy peasy ones, but she found like a nice rock of the crystal. So I guess at the end of the day, it was a success for her. She found a huge piece of it. So, but yeah, this episode I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was even better than the first one, and I think it's gonna keep on getting better and better as it goes along, because I'm now thoroughly enjoying this series. But don't get me wrong, I am still looking forward to the second season of Yashahime. I think it's gonna be epic because the trailer for Yashahime, the second act, was epic. So I'm still very excited to see season 2 of that. But this series right now, The Great Jahy, I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I'm having fun with the show. I am also excited to see how more episodes will progress. You know, how more, which begs the question now. Since she found a bit more humility and humbleness about herself, how she's living in this world, in the conditions of living in this world, I am already begging the question for myself. I'm begging the question how this this finale will be. Will she stay on Earth, right? Living how she is, right? Or will she willing to go back to the dark world to rule? Or she'll just willing to stay here on Earth, you know, just living how she is. Maybe she'll get better time will tell, so who knows? But that's one question I like to see, you know. Was she willing to choose to go back to the dark realm to rule? Or will she choose to stay on Earth because she's already made some friends of her own? You can say the landlady and her boss at work. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this series will progress. I'm assuming it's going to get even better and better with more charm and fun humor, and more on Jahy, you know, learning more about humility and more about herself, you know, as she's living here on Earth, especially when she's living in her child form. But we'll see what happens in episode 3. So yeah, episode 2, I give it a thumbs up. I really did. It really cranked itself up. I could say more. It cranked itself up from the first episode. I'm trying to say. So I definitely give it a thumbs up. Definitely. So episode 2 was really great. I loved it. And yeah, so first episode was great. This took it up a notch a bit and a bit more. And I'm looking for how the third episode will be. So yeah. So The Great Jahy will not be defeated. Episode 2, really great. And I'm looking forward to seeing more. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode review and more other videos. Later.